Well, Braves fans, I don't know about you, but I've gotten to the point where I'm a little annoyed with this offseason. It has been just no good news, no good action, a lot of minor league signings, and that's it. So as flat as it can be, a lot of disappointment as the Braves have seen multiple, you know, team favorites, fan favorites leaving. Max Fried's gone. Darno's gone. Are you depressed yet? Um, Charlie Morton's gone. AJ Minter's gone and is a Met, which is just salt in the wound. So on top of all that, the Braves have just done nothing to address their departures or any of the other kind of obvious holes that they have in their lineup. So yeah, the Braves are really good. They're still one of the top teams in baseball, and yet when you're that good, you kind of expect to better yourself even more and prepare to take on the growing, strengthening Dodgers. So that has not happened. So Braves fans out there, I think, are rightfully getting beyond frustrated. That's not even the word. And I've been one of those who've tried to stay even keeled about things and just play the long game. And yet here we are a few weeks before the start of spring training, and this Braves have done nothing. So we're going to get into that a little bit. And so stick with me, and hopefully you're not too depressed by the end of this episode. All right, guys. So, in recent days, as we approach 3 weeks until the beginning of spring training, I'm at a low point. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm at a low point in this offseason. Luckily, some other good things in my life are happening. We are moving. So you can actually might see some evidence of that behind me. You're going to see a different backdrop. If you watch me on YouTube, you'll see a different backdrop after this week. So that's happening. A lot of good there. But in terms of the Braves, man, it has been pretty bad, right? And hard to deal with as a fan. I mean, offseason, I always get really excited about the offseason simply because, hope springs eternal. The Braves are a good team. Okay, let's see who we might add. And there's just been nothing. And, we have a general manager in Alex Anthopolous, who typically acts really quickly and decisively and adds a couple pieces here and there. The Braves don't spend on the same level as a lot of other teams, but usually Anthopoulos, he's known for being a really active general manager, and it has been just the exact opposite this offseason, in an offseason, coming off an incredibly frustrating 2024, right? So it just kind of all strings together. It feels like it's been about a full calendar year's worth of disappointment, frustration, annoyance at just the Braves it seems like can't get over this really negative feeling. So that's part of it. So the things that have pushed me over the edge, because I've tried to be patient with the Braves and what they're doing this offseason, knowing that, well, the offseason's long, and you might not always get your top target, but certainly they have a game plan of the guys they want to bring in, and it's going to happen eventually, right? And it all still might happen. But a couple of things have pushed me over the edge to where I'm just saying, okay, now I am pretty darn annoyed with Alex Anthopoulos and with the Braves front office. Number one, I mean, obviously zero action from the Braves front office. I mean, outside of a flurry of minor league additions, 34-year-old guys who probably should not still be in baseball, and guys who are younger but just have never shown any kind of ability to be on a major league roster. Okay, we got a lot of those guys at AAA. If somebody gets hurt, you got more bodies to throw at it, but you don't have anybody really who is an impact addition in any way, shape, or form. So zero action from the Braves front office. So that's part of it. Then the Braves' chief threat in the National League, the Dodgers, are going crazy this offseason, of course, and this is the offseason after adding Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto last season, and then winning the World Series. Another salt in the wound is Freddie Freeman being the World Series MVP in a Dodgers uniform, right? So that's part of it as well. And then just this week, you have the signing of Tanner Scott, who's been long rumored to be possibly coming to the Braves as their first big addition. Nope, he goes to the Dodgers. And then immediately after that, we get news that another possible Braves target in Kirby Yates, former Brave, who had a great season in Texas last year, also signing with, guess who? The Dodgers. It's laughable. It's almost like a Babylon Bee article at this point. Like, Dodgers sign every major league player and Major League Baseball ends. I mean, that's what I think is going to happen next. So you have all of that happening. And then, of course, this is all on top of the multiple key departures that the Braves have experienced. Again, not only do you have all these guys leaving that have been such key contributors, but the Braves just not having any kind of counterpunch to these losses. So through most of the offseason, I've generally trusted Alex Anthopolous. I mean, he certainly has done everything to earn a lot of trust from Braves fans and baseball fans generally, right? Widely trusted, regarded, respected general manager. And the Braves front office, just trusting them generally to come through with a few key signings or trades. You're not going crazy. You're not expecting them to sign Juan Soto. You're not expecting them even to sign, some of the other top free agents, but doing some things to address their key weaknesses would be expected, right? You recognize the Braves don't live in the same financial stratosphere as the Dodgers and Yankees and the Mets. So they're not going to go for those top names, but you certainly expect them to quickly address their needs. And it's just been crickets. So that trust that I've had in Anthopoulos is starting to wane. Now, maybe it's unfounded, right? Maybe I am being silly and I just need to let it all play out. And over the next month, all will be, made right. And that might be, but man, it is hard to stick with him fully at this point in the offseason. So again, it doesn't mean that I don't think the Braves are going to be good. They have one of the most talented rosters in baseball. They're getting healthier, obviously. And so, yeah, they'll be very good. They'll be a World Series contender. In fact, they still have great odds to get into the playoffs and probably face the Dodgers in the NLCS, especially if Ronald comes back healthy and Strider comes back healthy. Those are question marks, but if those things happen, yeah, the Braves have a great chance at being right there. But it is totally true to say that the Braves are worse today than they were at the beginning of 2024. This version, and again, I know that we're not through the offseason yet, but this version of the Braves team is worse than what the Braves were like entering 2024. Okay, you have lost two of your starters in Max Fried and Charlie Morton. You have lost two key relievers from your bullpen in AJ Minter and then Joe Jimenez to injury. Maybe he'll be back by the end of the year, maybe next year. You've lost one of your two primary catchers in Travis d'Arnaud. And so 5 big losses, 4 were key voices in that clubhouse. So, that's hard to measure, but you've lost some really important key contributors, guys who were on the 2021 World Series team, who have been just a big part of that clubhouse culture for a long time. So it's on-field and off-field losses, big time for the Braves. And meanwhile, you have the exact two same weaknesses that you had entering 2024. I will say that Anthopoulos did not address left field or shortstop in 2024 when he could have. I mean, he went out and got Kelnick, and that didn't work. And you still have those same two weaknesses on this roster as we speak. And it does not seem like the Braves have any interest in addressing shortstop, right? I think the attitude is, well, if we build the rest of the lineup, then we can have a light hitting, defensively reliable shortstop in RCA. Oh, it's fine. Well, of course, what we experienced last year is, well, yeah, but if one or two guys gets injured, suddenly you're relying more on Arcia to hit a little bit more, and he's just not very good. And then again, okay, well, in that case, if you really want to go there and stick with Arcia, then let's go get a left fielder. And they haven't done that. So anyways, according to recent comments by Alex, I don't know if you guys caught that. He had a pretty long form interview with some Atlanta radio guys about a week ago, maybe a little more than that. The Braves, according to his comments, the Braves are totally okay with going over the CBT number. They don't have any real major financial restrictions. They can make a really big addition if, they want to, or they feel that is a good fit. But I'm really starting to question if Alex is being sincere with those comments, whether they really are strictly trying to stay under that CBT number and restart it, or if just simply he was given a much tighter restraints financially this year than they've had in the past. I don't know. I mean, I will say the Braves did not draw as well last year as they had in previous years. It was not a very fun team to go watch. So, I mean, you see it on TV. They'd have, half the stadium full or maybe 2/3 of the stadium full, but it wasn't like they were selling out every game like they were in 2023. 2023, man, it was fun to go to the ballpark and watch that team over and over again. Not so much in 2024. Ronald wasn't on the field. You weren't going to go see Strider pitch. There was the last bit of the year, you weren't going to see Riley. I mean, you got to the point where it's like half the team is not even there. So, maybe part of it is that. I don't know. Of course, they're not going to share the financial strategy of the offseason with the fans, nor really should they. But you really do start to wonder if it's just all GM speak, and that's why they're not making much of a move. The one thing we know, and I haven't really talked about it with you guys, is, of course, the Jeff Hoffman signing, that apparently the Braves wanted to sign Jeff Hoffman really early in the offseason. They were aggressive to try to get him, and then, of course, his shoulder, apparently there's some kind of injury there, and they pulled off of that. It was going to be like a 5-year deal, around $9 million a year, and it didn't happen. And so, since then, I don't know, maybe that threw them for a loop. Maybe he was like their number one target, and they didn't have much after that that they really wanted to go after. But regardless, it's just been a lot of inactivity from the Braves this offseason. So, when you enter the offseason with a team as talented as the Braves, I personally think you owe it to the fan base and certainly to the players. If you don't want to talk about the fan base, you can talk about the players. You owe it to the players to make key additions to strengthen the team. The Austin Rileys and the Matt Olsons and the Spencer Striders, they are watching Max Fried become a Yankee, and they're watching A.J. Minter become a Met. And man, that stinks. And all the other guys who have left, and no one has come through those doors, come back the other direction. And just like mid-year, when you're at the trade deadline, you want to infuse the team with some talent, and it just bolsters the team, and just have had none of that this offseason. So I know the offseason isn't over, and Anthopolous could still make some really impactful moves. I mean, there's still some guys out there, but it also seems like the gap between, not seems, it's true, the gap between the Braves and Dodgers is growing day by day, and the gap between the Braves and the Phillies and the gap between the Braves and the Mets is shrinking. I do still think the Braves are better than the Phillies and the Mets, though the Phillies obviously won the NL East last year and could do so again this year. The Mets have gotten better, of course, with Juan Soto. I'm questioning their pitching staff, but they're still going to be good. And the Dodgers just keep making moves, and the Braves are standing still. And, Anthopolous will say it over and over again. You don't make a move because, to compete with another team who made a move. I mean, I know that's true, but the reality is the Dodgers are becoming just this juggernaut of a team, and the Braves are just standing still. So could the Braves still make a move? Of course, right? Dylan Cease could be traded to the Braves. Or what about Bo Bichette or Luis Robert? Those trades could happen, sure. They could still go out and sign a Jerkson Profar or a Hassan Kim or some guys for the bullpen. But my gut tells me that if the Braves really like those guys, those deals would have been done already. They would have tried to, like Jeff Hoffman, they would have tried to aggressively sign those guys early in the offseason, and they didn't. Now, maybe they're just waiting for one of them to fall into their laps. If one of them doesn't get signed, and it's just hoping to get signed for a 1-year deal and, bounce back, that sort of thing, maybe it'll happen. But you can't rely on that. I mean, I would rather just go do it and have them there, ready to go, happy to be a Brave, not disappointed that they had to take this lesser contract for a year, but be a Brave for 2 or 3 years and ready to go and be a part of the team. So that's what I would prefer. So let's hope that happens. But I don't have a lot of hope at this point that it's going to happen. So let's pivot to the Dodgers for a second. A lot of people are talking about it. A lot of consternation has come down on the Dodgers with the offseason that they've had, and I totally get it. I mean, a lot of my emotions, my feelings are the same. I obviously, being a Braves fan, I haven't liked the Dodgers for some time. You can respect them. Obviously, they're incredibly good, and they won the World Series. But yeah, watching this offseason and last offseason and winning a World Series in between those two off seasons, it's pretty frustrating as a fan of any other team. The fact is the Dodgers have some major advantages that other teams simply do not have. Number one, they have an incredibly well-run franchise and have developed a culture that a lot of players want to be a part of. Now, other teams have that, okay? But I do think the Dodgers, to their credit, have done a tremendous job of developing that. The next thing, they draft and develop as well as any team in the sport. Remember, Alex Anthopolous came over from the Dodgers. He was there briefly before being the GM of the Blue Jays. And so, he brought some of that and saw some of that when he was with the Dodgers. But it's just true. They draft really well. They develop really well. They are willing to use some of those pieces in trades and have done so. Some of their other guys they brought up and have been really important pieces to their success. So, those are things that any team can do. Any team can develop a great culture. The Braves have done that. The Braves are an incredibly well-run franchise. Any team can draft and develop well if they are willing to put the resources into it and the right people into those places. But the other thing that the Dodgers do have is not something every team can do, right? The Dodgers, number one, are already in the largest, wealthiest market, maybe them in New York, right? The two largest, wealthiest markets in the United States. But I also think LA geographically is in even a better position. It's on the Pacific. You got Japan and the growth of Japanese baseball and ultimately Shohei Ohtani coming to the Dodgers. So, this offseason, the last offseason for them, Shohei's decision to sign with them, to me, is like huge. There are just huge ripple effects to Shohei deciding to go to LA, well beyond just Shohei himself. And Shohei himself is big enough of an impact, right? But him coming to LA and also deciding to defer all this money, it just opens up so much for the Dodgers. In an instant, he expanded what is already one of the biggest markets in baseball. He expanded that market all the way to Japan and really globally. I mean, the Dodgers market now is global. They basically have limitless money to spend. They have limitless resources. And that really, I think, happened when Shohei arrived. And all their actions since Shohei gets there, yeah, they can spend whatever they want. They can go out and get whoever they want. They can go as far over the CBT numbers as they want. They're spending, I think right now it's $375 million in 2025, $75 million more than the number 2 team, the Phillies. And that has a lot to do with Shohei being there and that deferred contract that he spent. So what does it mean for the rest of the league? Should there be a salary cap? No, I don't think so. I'm not a fan of the salary cap. There have been juggernaut teams in the past. I grew up with the New York Yankees being the evil empire, and I just think the Dodgers have replaced them. I think the Dodgers are the new iteration of that. Do I think it's great for the league? This kind of imbalance between the Dodgers payroll and the rest of the league? No, I don't think it's good for the league, but I also don't think that means you should have a strike and lose the 2027 season and create a salary cap and jerry rig the whole system so that they can't spend. In a way, I think it actually hurts the Dodgers. Now, that's going to sound a little funny, but I think it actually detracts from the achievement that the Dodgers might enjoy over the next several years. And I'm sure they're going to have many achievements. They might win multiple World Series over the last, let's say, next 5 years. Over the next 5 years, excuse me. If they win, though, if they win, everybody's just going to say, "Who cares? You bought your championship. You bought it. You should have won." And there might even be some of those feelings amongst the players, right? Like a greater level of pressure to win because, of course, we should win. We have all of this talent. And if you lose, you'll say, how could you lose with that roster? It's like you lost doubly because you should never lose with Shohei and Mookie Betts and, obviously fill in all the blanks. I could go forever just listing their great players. So I'm not saying a Dodgers championship would be meaningless to their players or their fans, but it wouldn't be quite as triumphant. I don't think it would be quite as meaningful as, say, when the Braves won in 2021. A team that overcame so much adversity, a team that came out of nowhere, the underdog story, or, whatever, a team that's on even footing with the rest of the league in many ways. You can say that doesn't matter, that it's just about rings and it's just about winning. But I disagree. I think it's still an achievement. Whoever wins is an achievement. But I think it puts greater pressure on those players. They've already won a World Series. And so, yes, I don't think it's the greatest thing in the world for the sport. But I don't think you should jerry-rig the system to avoid those types of teams from spending what they want to spend. You have to be better, and I think that's the ultimate thing. The Braves, and of course with this offseason, I've seen no evidence of it, but the Braves have to. They're already a great franchise. I would say they're a top 5 franchise in baseball, but the Braves have to be willing to overcome the monster that is the Los Angeles Dodgers. So should the Braves be willing to spend more? Yes, I think they absolutely should. Of course, they're a publicly traded company. They are run like a company. And so they're not going to spend crazy. So I'm not holding my breath on that one, that they're going to just start spending a lot more than they have. They will never be they will never be able to spend at the level of the Dodgers unless Elon Musk tomorrow decides to buy the Braves. I think he might buy TikTok instead. But that would be awesome. If they had a billionaire owner who, kind of like a Ted Turner type, who's just willing to spend, and, the making money on the back end was the secondary goal outside of winning World Series, that would be awesome. But that's not the case. They will never have the geographic advantage that the Dodgers have to go out and dominate the Japanese market, or the roster advantage now with all the Japanese players the Dodgers have. They can dominate that market. They've created for themselves an avenue, like this just pathway between Japan and LA. And I don't know that that's going to end anytime soon. So the Braves have to draft and develop better than any other team in baseball. That should be a primary goal for the Braves. They have to get better at scouting internationally, that young international market, young talent. They need to do better in the international market than they have done. They have to figure out a way to stay healthier. I mean, they have just endured so many injuries, not only to their major league roster, but all the way down through the minor leagues. They've had a ton of injuries, and I think they should address that. I mean, their injuries are a part of sports, but there have been a lot for the Braves. And I don't know, maybe there's something they need to start doing to avoid those injuries a little better. So they've got to figure out a way to stay healthy. And they have to be willing to improve this current roster without leveraging their long-term future. So I'm not saying go out and be crazy and make this massive trade that just, empties out your minor league talent. But there are moves out there that the Braves should make, can make, that will not empty out the minor leagues, that will make this roster better, make the roster better at shortstop, make the roster better at left field or starting pitcher. Certainly it's not that difficult to go out and get a few relievers. So there are still moves to make, but there are so many names off the board now. And you just got to feel like, what is Alex waiting on? And I really have no idea. I really don't. But if the Braves go into 2025 without a single impact addition, I can't tell you how disappointed I'm going to be. It's just a lost opportunity. This team is so good, but you gotta support the guys that are already there. So sure, the Braves would be a great team with a chance to win the division and maybe even the World Series without a single addition. But in that case, Alex would have made it harder and given no reinforcements after losing a Max Fried and an AJ Minter and these other guys. So Alex Anthopolous should not act just to act, right? You have some GMs that do that. They'll just add to add. I know he's not that kind of GM. He's not going to do that. And I know he's certainly not listening to me or these other outside voices that are getting nervous about the offseason. But for the sake of the team and for the sake of the fans, and remember, guys, I'm a fan, just like you. For the sake of the fans, he needs to find a way to add impact players to the roster before spring training begins. So I hope he does that. I will continue to watch, check the wires and all that. But this offseason, it's just felt like a futile exercise to go on MLB Trade Rumors or go on whatever, the Braves website and see just nothing, just crickets. And I hope that does not last much longer. We love this team and we love to root for them. And I hope the Braves get better and can at least be in a position to try to take out the Dodgers and win a World Series in 2025. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening to this episode of State of the Braves. I'll talk to you soon.